Welcome to the LAVA Spurt, the weekly offshoot of the lava flow. Channeling the flow of information to the libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, voluntarist, and agorist community. Brought to you by my per episode donors. Thank you. Here's your host, Roger Paxton.
Thank you for joining me on the second episode of the LAVA Spurt, the PorcFest XIII Edition, where I'm going to break down my time at PorcFest for those of you who may have missed it. First of all, I want to thank all of my listeners who came up and introduced themselves to me at PorcFest. I met a ton of you all throughout the week, and it was so awesome. All of the kind words, the encouragement, and just plain awesomeness was just incredible. Thank you so much, guys. I would attempt to name all of you, but I would invariably miss someone and make them feel slighted, so I'm just going to skip that. But you all know who you are. Now, I went into the Porcupine Freedom Festival with only a vague idea of what to expect. I was told by some that I shouldn't even take my kids because of all of the debauchery that goes on at PorcFest, but that was not my experience at all. My kids had the best time possible, and they were exposed to nothing that I would be ashamed of. Was there some drug use at PorcFest? Sure, but it was done respectfully and discreetly for the most part. Were there drugs for sale? Well, all over the place, from the tent with the sign with a picture of mushrooms saying that they were not actual size, to the edibles that could be found from vendors walking all over the campgrounds all weekend. But I wasn't worried at all that any of these would have been sold to my children. Was there sex at PorcFest? Well, I'm sure there was, but it was also discreet, with the exception of the tweet using the PorcFest hashtag that advertised certain ladies for rendezvous in certain tents for $40. Thankfully, my kids don't have access to Twitter yet. And as my friend Joel said, he didn't even see a penis the whole time that he was there for the first time. I presume that means that he either has an abnormally large bladder or he relieved himself in the dark. I'm not quite sure. So, since my kids weren't involved in debauchery, what did they do all week? Pretty much whatever the hell they wanted. It was a great opportunity to allow my children to go free range for 9 days, or as I like to call it, the way that I was raised. It's sad that there has to be a term for it these days. Anyway, my boys had the opportunity to do as much or as little as they wanted. For my youngest, that meant that he left our RV early every single morning and came back sometime after dark, doing anything from making tie-dye shirts to playing on the playground for hours, to using his own money to buy his meals when he got hungry or heading back to the RV for us. For my oldest son, this meant leaving the RV when he felt like it, and when he had enough people time, he went back to the RV to read and unwind. Now, my oldest did find himself in a little bit of trouble during the week when he was caught with a few older boys for throwing mini golf clubs into the water at the bottom of the water slide. The boys were marched to the Porc Info tent, and all of the parents were summoned, including us. The owner of Rogers Campground was, of course, fit to be tied at the way that his property was used, as he should be. Thanks to some intervention from Matt Phillips, the president of the Free State Project, the owner decided to allow the boys to clean up various areas of the campground for a couple of hours as restitution, since he would have to pay somebody to go into the sludge of water to retrieve those clubs. Now, this was a huge teaching moment for my son and also for me. I was very proud of the way my son handled his restitution without complaint, knowing that he had done wrong. He did a fantastic job in his duties and apologized to the owner after it was all said and done. My son learned a very valuable lesson, and I learned that peaceful parenting is actually working with Jess and I. We'll be talking about peaceful parenting in an upcoming episode of the Lava Flow soon, so be sure to be on the lookout for that one. What did Jessica and I do all week? Also, pretty much whatever the hell we wanted, which involved everything from sitting in a few talks, playing board games with our boys, hanging out with some of the most awesome people in the world, sitting on our panel for potential movers, and just relaxing, since this was my vacation after all. There was a very low-key atmosphere this year, which a lot of people didn't like, but for me and our family, it was just perfect. We were just as content sitting under the tiki torches outside of our RV, drinking and plotting to take over the world with dozens of other Free Staters as they stopped by to talk, as we were going to hear people give speeches with ideas on how to take over the world. Connections were made, friendships were formed and nurtured, and there was a huge reiteration of why we are in New Hampshire to begin with. For all of that, I thank the dozens of organizers and volunteers that made PorcFest XIII a stunning success. So if you missed PorcFest this year, then I'm sad for you. It was a blast. The good news is you don't have to miss any more. Make sure to keep an eye out for PorcFest XIV next year, or just keep listening here, and of course I will bring you all of the news you need to know so that you'll be able to attend. And if you haven't signed the pledge to join 19,999 of your best friends and intentional family in New Hampshire, then what's wrong with you? Go to freestateproject.org and sign up today to come help us achieve liberty in our lifetime. Until next time, keep striking the root.
Thank you for listening to The Lava Flow at thelavaflow.com. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe now at thelavaflow.com/subscribe. This has been a Pax Libertas Productions podcast.